great stuff coming out from NRG overall. We'll see if they can end it here in game number 2. P's and B's, pretty please.
It's the quick adaptations, though, that can be hard to read at times from NRG. I feel that is certainly one of their strong suits, because NRG, the more you play against them, the harder it is to beat them. That has been a true statement for years.
We keep saying that, and that's, I think, representative of NRG's ability to identify what went wrong. Even in a win, it's important, and that, I think, is what is the key point there, is that it's very easy to lose and go, well, that's why we lost. But when you win, can you identify why you didn't win harder? And I think that's what NRG does very well with the addition of EmilZy, maybe even better than they did in the past.
If I'm remembering correctly, too, that exact statement is what all of the European teams kept stating about Dignitas when they had the blunder at Super Regionals.
Yeah.
They were winning everything, and that was the problem, was that they were just winning, and they didn't really know why they were winning, and then they came to finally understand, well, these compositions actually don't work.
There's also that other side of if you've never lost, sometimes you don't know how to lose, and that can certainly impact teams when we're talking about NRG being one of the more, I don't know if you want to say emotional or favor-driven teams there. Bans coming out, though. Obey doesn't want to see the Hebo one more time. That's going to be banned out. Thoth Guy also banned as well. Athena and Janus, this time on the side of NRG, because Obey first picked Cerberus. Taco, I'm going to have an aneurysm. Athena and Janus are too good to be giving up. I don't understand this pick ban. I don't like this. And it's funny because I know people are going to say I had no problem last time around. NRG are the top card. You expect them to give up the better stuff and try to tackle it. Taco, I don't like this at all from Obey.
I think that this is a pick your poison situation, and for Obey, it's almost that whole, or at least for NRG, it feels a little bit don't you can do, I can do better. I can definitely see that happening from their team, but I still firmly believe Cerberus is a proper direction to head in. I am not opposed to seeing a first pick Cerberus.
But even with Athena and Janus,
Athena and Janus didn't do anything in the last game for Obey.
For Obey.
Yeah.
These are two very different teams.
Yes, but that was a very clear game. And what happened, Athena and Janus, sure, you've got all this global pressure, but for what? It's a runaway. You can only run away so many times.
That's
NRG
fair.
will come knocking on your front door eventually, and that is why I prefer to see Obey going for a heavy team fighting composition here that they can truly utilize every single member at the exact same moment and just look for the heavy execution factor. I think that when it comes to just raw execution, Obey can still take this one home.
Okay. I think you've definitely convinced me a little bit, and with Chang'e and Hachiman certainly liking those looks as well for Obey. And then NRG locks in the Batz. Batz is a disruptive character. NRG have really put themselves in a position where they have a lot of control, but I am questioning where that damage is going to come from.
This is the same problem that I had with Obey's composition in the previous match. You get Athena, Janus, they got the Ratatasker, but there was no follow-up damage there for Obey. This time around, all they have is damage, it feels. A decent amount of crowd control also between the Chang'e and the Cerberus, probably expecting to see a little bit of a hybrid build from Chang'e, possibly from Erlang Shen as well. Some flexibility options there. Not completely convinced that this is a Chang'e for solo. I think the Chang'e and the Erlang Shen are interchangeable, but I would like to see Xaliea at least running it back on one of his signature healer gods.
It would be nice. NRG have a control-oriented squad aimed towards the late game, and Obey win because they have Zeus. Casters?
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, sure. That's fine by me.
Yeah, doing it that way every single time from now on. As we move into game 2 here, Finch and Aggro are going to be taking you into this next game, and already a bit of a swap around in these picks and bans. Now it's NRG, it feels like after that, the global pressure, whereas NRG have kind of gone more teamfight based. They just have damage.
They do. I mean, Obey has got plenty of damage and control, and I think that this composition makes a lot more sense for them. This is a little bit more their style. I mean, the last team composition was fine in their style or whatever, but it clearly didn't work out, so let's go with something that we could be comfortable with, but also not the exact same type of team composition. I think makes a lot of sense.
Well, who do you think is going to win game 2? Go ahead and vote for us in the Mixer poll now and let us know your thoughts. Ryan and I will be waiting with bated breath. Why am I lying to them?
I'm going to breathe normally the whole time.
I don't know why I built it up like that. I do
Breathing
care.
is important.
But I'm gonna be a normal person about it as I care.
Yeah. I mean, okay.
Yeah.
How do you bait your breath anyways?
You just don't breathe.
I don't think that would bring a lot of success for us if I didn't breathe.
Well, I mean, I'm just telling you the definition of baited breath.
And it's not like baited like I baited that guy. It's B-A-T-E-D, right?
Right. It's not like, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you just like, okay, never mind.
Trouble for Yammyn as CaptainTwig goes in aggressive. Now it's trouble for Twig. It's actually a 2v1. He's got to retreat. Instead, they're just not going to go grab their own speed buff. Meanwhile, Prime going to take the speed buff by himself and actually pick it right on up.
I'm just confused onto what Twig thought would happen in that spot. If you only see Yammyn, it's not like Adapting is letting his speed buff go.
No.
Adapting's coming. Don't you know it's happening? But Twig, I guess, decides that his farm is not that important in the early game here. Look, if you're trying to invade by yourself and you see the Janus, I guess at that point it was too late for Twig to turn around and go back to his speed buff, but maybe doing XP, something, I don't know. It just feels weird for him to accept that he's getting no farm in that spot and just be okay with that.
Does at least put some damage in on Yammyn, but it certainly doesn't pressure him enough where he feels like he has to use any relics or anything like that to respond. So all in all, Yammyn's going to be fine, and PrettyPriMe was able to get a little bit of farm on his own, so perhaps he'll be a bit ahead of Yammyn because of that. We'll get to follow along and see if that does have any impact, but I mean, you got to think that CaptainTwig would rather just have speed buff right now.
Yes, you would assume so. But either way, doesn't end up working out for him, and PrettyPriMe gets a little bit ahead because of it. Prime going for the boots and lost artifact start, so he's really zooming compared to most other characters on the map at any given time. I'm still not a huge fan of this build. I think that if you do go for it, you really have to make use of that boots power spike very, very early on, and Obey Alliance's draft can do that with the Erlang Shen, so I look forward to seeing if that's what they go for, because otherwise you're just giving up a lot of MP5 and putting yourself in kind of a weird spot overall.
We have been seeing some build variety, especially with these mid-mages, about how they want to go for the early game. As Adapting is going to be able to blink towards Xaliea, using that monkey toss and get some good damage in, force him back. But it's not always that you have to go right for that mage's blessing, is what we've seen so far. Now, emilitoo, a little bit of trouble. iRaffer doesn't quite have kill potential there, so they'll fall back. But this time, going to go right for pin boots right out of the gate. That's going to be Prime's build path here.
Yep, this is what you do. If you're going for this sort of build, you back as soon as possible, buy your pen boots, and then immediately build either a Rod of Tahuti or a Chronos Pen. Historically, it has been Rod of Tahuti. And so this is where it works, right? Prime immediately backs, use that extra mobility, the extra damage that he'll do, and make sure that speed goes Obey Alliance's way. And I like that NRG understands that's the plan, but that just because NRG knows that and is going to play around it doesn't mean that shouldn't still be the game plan. And that's where you have to go with that sort of build.
Yeah, they were able to come in and grab red buff too, where Obey Alliance to pull that one away. So that is some value that comes out of it. It's Prime mostly that got that one done. So if they can stay on top of those buff timers and try and get some invades going on here, as now Ataraxia and iRaffer are looking for the purple buff as well. They've kind of pushed emilZy and emilitoo back here in the dual lane. This is already a much better start. Now they're the ones with the pressure on the map and invading these buffs.
Prime has got a lot of farm right now. He hits 5 significantly before Yammyn. But at the same time, take a look at his mana bar. Very, very low in that mid lane. So even with the mana potion ticking, which he did buy in order to give himself at least some sort of mana sustain, you don't get to stay on the map for long with this build. You have to make sure that every time that you are out of base that you're making a lot of stuff happen. And Prime did it on this back, or this time out on the map. But can he do it the next time? You have to basically be backing in rhythm with red buffs coming up. Get theirs, get yours, get mids, push a couple waves, back to base, be ready for the next enemy red buff spawn. If you're not doing that, I don't think this build works at all.
And that's when I start turning my eyes here towards Adapting, who's not quite level 5 yet, but he certainly has the ability to come in and disrupt that exact flow you're talking about, because it does have to be rather precise from PrettyPriMe to make sure that he's still min-maxing. There's certainly opportunity for Adapting to come into the jungle and disrupt that if Yammyn is there with him. Even emilZy, if he can get Defender of Olympus online. They have a brief moment, though, where they're still both 4, and they might be able to make it happen.
Yeah, 5 just got hit by Adapting, though, and iRaffer is still waiting for his level 5, and Adapting's heading on over right away. He got spotted by a ward on the left side, but red buff is about to spawn, and iRaffer and Ataraxia no longer get a chance to go to rotate to that. So no consecutive red buffs invades for Obey Alliance this time around.
Instead, Prime going to head right back towards middle lane. Looks like Yammyn is back working on speed buff. Doesn't quite have Adapting with him there just yet. I'm certain he's going to give it over to him, but looks like he's going to start at least a little bit before Adapting actually gets it.
Efficiency with your farm. Got to get it where you can while you're there. And Yammyn will tag it up and make sure that Adapting doesn't have to spend as much time on the buff itself and can make it work. Twig on this right-hand side doesn't have this one. Interesting. So decides not to level the first ability, which is really where Erlang Shen's primary damage comes from in those 1v1 fights. I mean, Mink does a lot, but spot weakness is like the reason why Erlang does way more damage to you than you think that he will. He gets 85 physical damage when this gets maxed out, plus scaling on his auto attack. So interesting that Twig rather decides not to go for it at all, instead prioritize the damage from Pin, which can be relevant, especially in the early game, but I don't know. I'm actually not familiar with how Cyno usually levels his Erlang jungle. I'm interested to see the differences there, because Cyno is like the Erlang jungle guy right now.
Well, iRaffer goes in with the Stygian Torment, can't find it. Instead, takes half his health bar in return. Adapting's lurking in the jungle. In fact, CaptainTwig has spied him out and forced the Fear No Evil to be used defensively rather than the big team fight like they want. Not going to be able to find it. In fact, Through Space and Time comes out from Yammyn as well. NRG don't get to use these big team fighting ultimates the way they would have liked.
No, both sides waste an ult, but NRG wastes one more ult than Obey Alliance does. I love that Twig just holds on to his Purification Beads in that spot. And this is where Erlang feels unboxable in the early game. And it's usually because of the one, but just getting the extra, the Fatalis effect, the haste effect from your 72 transformations, going into Mink form or getting that shield from the turtle form ends up being really, really helpful to Erlang in those 1v1 fights. And there it was enough to force Adapting into the ultimate because of the pressure he was exerting.
Yeah, he really is going to be reliant on that 72 transformation, some of that extra shield health he's getting, some of that extra damage to look for these boxing matches. And CaptainTwig, I mean, he's got here with this Warrior Jungle Star, got to get off to a good start. Eventually, Adapting with that Fear No Evil is just going to be the better team fighting ability. It's so good, and they have him, and they have emilitoo to follow up with the Sun, to follow up with the Unstable Vortex damage, so the damage is certainly there. I want to see CaptainTwig capitalize on this early. Is in fact, Adapting actually a little bit XP ahead, able to take over to level 7 already.
But Erlang is no slouch of a team fighter in his own right. I mean, you're not wrong. Fear No Evil is one of the best team fight ultimates in the entire game and can certainly change the tune of any fight. But Erlang can get fights started very, very easily for Obey Alliance. He can end fights himself with big CC chains, setting up for guys like PrettyPriMe and Xaliea. So I don't think that it's just if he doesn't get off to a good start, it's over. It wouldn't hurt him, though.
Well, certainly not, but it's part of why you pick the Warrior over, you know, just any other assassin, is that it does kind of let you get off to a better start, generally speaking. And so far, it's been relatively even, but Erlang Shen, as you said, has no problem getting to the backline, sticking to the likes of emilitoo, sticking to the likes of Yammyn, if they can stop him going through a portal. As emilitoo wants the 1v1 fight, can't quite find on Ataraxia. iRaffer commits the ultimate, gets taunted back in. Yammyn with the damage, but CaptainTwig comes over with the 9 turns blessing, can't follow up, but it's Adapting. Fear No Evil gets iRaffer up against the wall, and they find the kill.
Oh, but Prime just late on that ultimate. If he commits Lightning Storm right away, as soon as Adapting passes him by to focus down iRaffer, I think he could have found enough damage there. Just 2 ticks of the ultimate likely would have netted Prime a double kill in that spot, but just a little bit too hesitant to commit the ult, and as a result, both Adapting and emilZy were able to escape.
I believe he had the detonate charge afterwards anyway, right? He certainly would have had that follow-up damage there to get it done, so I agree that would have been certainly a good play there from him, but instead, PrettyPriMe not able to find it. And Obey Alliance, that time again, where CaptainTwig has a relatively good setup when he initially goes in on that fight, but they're not all quite there at the same time, ready to follow up, and it's NRG who come away with first blood, Adapting able to punish iRaffer in the jungle.
And you were seeing the strength of what Erlang brings in the jungle. He cleared Adapting's XP camp in the blink of an eye, and the Mink form at this point in the game will clear the side minions and leave the main Harpy, and I think 1 or 2 autos. I think it's only 1 at this point. So Twig is utilizing that nicely. The movement speed that you get from this ability and the damage that it provides is just crazy. 310 at base, plus 85%. Whenever it's max. Right now it's only 250 plus 85%. Oh no.
Only 250, yeah. You won't even feel that, really, then, right?
No.
You can shrug that one off. As
Easily.
CaptainTwig is going to be meeting up with Adapting here in the jungle. Adapting wants no part of this, though. We see him almost immediately turn around and get on out of there. Doesn't quite have Fear No Evil yet, but it should be up momentarily. He's elected to go right into that hi-rez, which almost says the same words his passive does, doesn't it? They just synergize so well.
Once you use an ability, your next auto attack will either do more damage from hi-rez Lament or crit from Hunbat's passive. Now you have the chance of both happening. Well, you're definitely getting the extra damage, but you get extra damage on the crit that you might get from your Hunbat's passive can be really, really strong. Also strong for PrettyPriMe now because he's finished off his route of Tahuti. So this item build is incredibly expensive through 2 items. I mean, it's boots, which are cheap, but Rod is really, really expensive still, even after the price decrease coming into Season 5. But man, Prime is going to hit really hard. That's the key, is that he's going to bring a big punch to these team fights.
And he's one of those mages where the passive, where you do extra damage when they're below the health threshold, where it really just kind of makes sense, right? The detonate charge is almost always used to kind of finish off that last target, and that's just going to bolster that even more. This is curious, of course. We don't often see Rod Tahuti here in that second slot, but it's so much power up front, and he's going to be rocking that red buff. He's certainly going to be swinging here in this mid-game. I mean, we see Soul Reaver's Rush, too. It's not too far from that same kind of mentality.
And honestly, it's not that far from Chronos Pendant either. Chronos Pendant's really expensive in its own right, and we still see that all the time. emilitoo still has it on the Hou-Yi. Surprise, surprise. No surprise here whatsoever. But you end up having these opportunities to make big plays with the Rod, and you really have to take them when you can get them, because now Prime has just spent more gold on his build, and it's going to be harder for the enemy team to, or it's going to be harder for him to keep up in his overall item build. I really like emilitoo being like, oh yeah, this triple ricochet, I hit that.
Yes, I love that. That was him going, I'm going to nail it no matter what, and committing the ultimate to it. So it doesn't work out for him, but when it does work out, it's going to look sick.
Oh yeah, it really will.
That does mean Ataraxia can breathe a little bit easier here in the dual lane, though, without having to worry about the Sunbreaker being dropped. EmilZy can't find the taunt. iRaffer is able to jump out of there, but the rotation's coming over from CaptainTwig. They got to be careful. 9 turns Blessing doesn't land the actual taunt. He will still get the heal, but there's no fight. CaptainTwig can't find the punish.
Adapting, very happy to have used exactly 0 resources besides his 1 cooldown to get out of an ultimate from CaptainTwig, who he's gotten for the early stone-cutting sword. Kind of a different look, but I think it makes sense as iRaffer in some danger, but Detonate not going to be enough damage to bring down Adapting. Twig wasn't there to help out, and neither was Ataraxia, as he was forced back very quickly by emilZy in his own jungle.
I think CaptainTwig was kind of spotting emilitoo there. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
emilitoo drops the ultimate in good spirit, so does CaptainTwig, right?
Very kind.
Yeah, I like it. I'm like kind of just trading those back and forth, but you saw some of the damage that Prime has in that jungle corridor. Couldn't quite get the kill, but certainly sent them all running as they fall back here. But still, it's energy, it feels like, doesn't it? It feels like they're the ones that have the momentum yet again, even with this early focus from Obey Alliance. They clearly want to fight right now as Yammyn finds the portal. PrettyPriMe doesn't have much by way of health. It's all damage, and Yammyn doesn't care how much damage you're doing. You're on your way back to base.
Man, Yammyn's portal there was huge. Prime had already used his beads in response to emilZy's taunt, so ended up not working out. emilitoo going to dive underneath that tier 2, and even with the beads and the ultimate from emilZy, it's not going to save him from CaptainTwig, but emilZy might be baiting Twig in here. There's help.
He lived just long enough to be able to actually show up. That's so important. That's what allows for Adapting and Yammyn to make the rotation over and actually get the kill. That's 3 members of Obey who are down. They do have to give up emilitoo, who dove very bravely into the tier 2 tower, but now they can get some damage in. They don't quite have many minions here, but if they can take this up, they can certainly take it.
Yeah, I think this tier 2 tower is gone, and indeed it will be. That's brutal for Obey Alliance to lose a tier 2 tower this early on in the game. It's not so bad for, say, PrettyPriMe, but it's awfully bad for Ataraxia, who's already been getting bullied in this lane. It does mean that he can hold this minion wave deeper towards his base, and that's why he's actually not clearing it right away. He's trying to get it as close to his own base as possible, and just make it so that emilitoo, if he needs farm, will push even deeper onto his side of the map. But now NRG get an awesome opportunity to pull Gold Fury and make sure that Obey Alliance only has 1 route to go to, and you can cut off that route towards the mid towers very easily with Through Space and Time. Funnel Obey towards the dual lane. They've got no help there.
But isn't it so? This is just like last game where Obey draft the global pressure and it's energy who are out rotating them. This time, Obey Alliance are building to fight now with the way that Prime is building, with the way that they've started this game off with CaptainTwig's ability level up prioritization, and energy are the ones gooning them in the jungle and forcing down the tier 2 tower early.
It hasn't looked good for Obey Alliance in game 1 or game 2, where whatever the strategy has been, NRG has been in the right spot to counter it.
Well, now Gold Fury is being looked at. It's been brought down to about 75%, but they got a leash. iRaffer, Twig, and Ataraxia are all here. Everyone has ultimates. No beads for Prime right now, 30 seconds on that, so he could certainly be a target. Same for emilitoo, another 45 seconds or so before he'll have his beads available. And NRG have dropped the Gold Fury aggro for now. They're kind of looking for positioning more than really actually pulling the objective.
Surprising that they aren't willing to full commit quite yet, but they likely want to chase out some relics from the enemy team. I mean, at this point, the turn and burn potential onto emilZy is really, really high.
Yes.
And NRG's going to need to convert very quickly on his taunts, because otherwise he's just going to pop from the damage from CaptainTwig and from PrettyPriMe.
And we've seen the Cerberus picked in response to Athena a lot lately as a way to sort of punish when she dashes in, just drop the Stygian Torment and kind of just pick her up and pull her back. So if they pick this much burn damage like they have, then emilZy certainly can be punished. Has to be careful with the way he chooses to initiate. Oftentimes he just walks up just like this, catches iRaffer with the unstable vortex from Yammyn. Now comes in the Fear No Evil overhand smash is more than enough. Twig in a little bit of trouble as well. Has to retreat. Prime holding on to the ultimate, couldn't find an opportunity, and NRG are able to make it out.
That play from adapting is just art, man. It's so nice. Just waits through the perfect moment, forces the jump away from iRaffer off of the taunt of emilZy, and then teleports and drops Fear No Evil before the Stygian Torment comes out from iRaffer. And even if the ultimate was there, adapting used beads preemptively, and that immuned the taunt from CaptainTwig, where he was trying to save his support's life. Perfect.
Another dash in. Xaliea is now in trouble. maniaKK here on the zone duty because the rest of NRG have the Gold Fury very low. Twig throws in a pin. Obey Alliance have stolen the Gold Fury. PrettyPriMe finds a kill in emilitoo, but maniaKK does fall as well. Ataraxia finds one. Prime with a double kill. 3 members of NRG go down. Obey Alliance still here to play.
Okay, Obey, I see you. Nice play from Xaliea there. Just sneaks in time to stun someone who I don't know who it was, I can't remember now, who was on the Gold Fury itself. Stuns them, then secures it with the abilities right before he ends up falling. Prime in the right spot to drop the ultimate afterwards. And now Obey get the Gold Fury, and they're going to get Pyromancer off of this. Look at the gold from the teamfight recap. That is a huge differential, and that's before this Pyromancer goes down. That's going to push Obey even closer to NRG. In fact, Obey's now in the lead in both gold and experience.
What a swing around from Obey Alliance, and that was the kind of fight that Obey Alliance wanted, where they can get NRG to overcommit. CaptainTwig in some trouble on the right-hand side. Defender of Olympus and Athena being here means they should have a good opportunity. CaptainTwig does get the heal, but taunted back to the shield crash. Adapting doesn't quite have the damage. emilZy dives in for it, and iRaffer still has Stygian Torment to pull in both. emilZy now taking the tier 1 tower. maniaKK has made the rotation over. They cannot find the kill. In fact, emilZy now running for the hills.
Very low, but nice and safe at the same time. It's too tanky for that tower to bring down. Double auras already. Hit just 17 minutes in means that emilZy's way too tanky for a tier 1 at that opportunity. Twig didn't have the beads, but didn't end up falling anyways, as he built into some extra HP with that winged blade. There are some significant slows on NRG side as well, so I think that makes a lot of sense. And his just ability, you're really relying on base damage, as we already saw earlier when we were mousing over Erlang Shen's abilities. His base damage is kind of nuts as is, so you can kind of rely on that and not worry about your overall power level if you're CaptainTwig.
Obey Alliance, though, look like they've got some new wind beneath their sails after a rough Game 1. Even the start to Game 2 was not ideal for Obey Alliance. They got 3 kills in that last fight, and they have 4 kills now total. So it just goes to show how well NRG had been doing up until that moment. But Obey, on that Gold Fury defense, have evened this game back out and mitigated that entire great start from NRG.
Now PrettyPriMe has some pen online as well. Went for the Spear of Desolation, so he's really just committing to expensive power items in any given opportunity. He's not going to do that much damage to emilZy because that pen isn't quite enough to punch through that Heartward Amulet, but I mean, Yammyn, adapting emilitoo, they're all going to go real quick in response to this Zeus damage, and it should be a Shaman's Ring next, which I think is perfect on this character.
Obey are playing aggressively into the jungle. Prime is here with them, and he is packing heat. He's got tons of damage as the blink comes in from CaptainTwig to force the beads from Yammyn in response. On the backside, Prime looking for damage on the maniaKK. Sunbreaker comes out from emilitoo for the slow through space and time. Cuts through the fight so emilZy can find a 2-man taunt. No immediate follow-up, but there comes the Fear No Evil, and Prime drops down the Lightning Storm. emilZy just cannot hang inside all that damage. They've got to retreat. Yammyn in trouble. iRaffer finds that hit. Now emilitoo drops as well. Suddenly, Obey Alliance 3 for 0.
This is how Obey should be playing. This is how they used to play. Twig goes in first, gets out some relics, and forces everything onto himself, but he knows he's safe at the same time, and his baiting abilities from NRG. He absorbs so much and really committed very little. Then NRG feels like they've got a good fight, but Prime never took an ounce of damage in that team fight, and he just gets to free cast and look great in that fight. This is how Obey drew it up during Season 4, and we just haven't seen it so far in Season 5. It clearly still works, Fitch.
It looks like they flipped a switch. Almost. It's so different from just what we saw 10 minutes ago. Those same disjointed fights that looked like there wasn't quite the communication there look entirely different right now. They look like they're fighting as a 5-man unit. And as you said, the leaving Prime on the backside where he can do damage from distance with this ridiculous build that he's gone so early on, it's worked out perfectly for them. NRG overcommit into the ultimate and they just don't have a way back out.
And it works out perfectly for Obey Alliance. Now they get 2 towers on that right-hand side, a bunch of gold. Prime's able to back and finish off a Shaman's Ring, start working towards what should be an Obsidian Shard. A lot of power spikes now across Obey Alliance. This next fight around Gold Fury is where I expect it to happen with that spawning in less than a minute. Has still got to go Obey's way, though. If they get a little bit too arrogant now and start not worrying about what NRG's going to bring to these team fights, Ataraxia has to be incredibly safe because he doesn't have any relics. Same can be said for emilitoo on the other side, but you expect that Obey Alliance is going to be the aggressors now with the lead that they have.
And some of the follow-up, it felt like, from NRG in that last fight, wasn't quite used at the right time. emilitoo used the Suns really early on in that engagement, the Sunbreaker ultimate, and Obey Alliance were able to disengage from it pretty cleanly and fall back, so they didn't get quite as much value from that. Wasn't able to get in position to get his autos off the way he wanted to either. That fight really just felt front to back way more in Obey Alliance's favor, and they were the ones that started. They were aggressing in NRG's jungle. They suddenly feel that confidence that we said was kind of missing in Game 1.
I don't think that emilitoo knew or remembered that CaptainTwig had Winged Blade, because he dropped the ult and tried to get the slow off on him, but Twig just got faster because of that Sunbreaker ultimate. Yammyn was expecting the slow as well. He fires off his through space and time, but that goes behind CaptainTwig because, again, he got a speed boost from Sunbreaker instead of getting slowed down, and that's what started that hold fight off poorly for NRG.
Well, they grab the Tier 2 tower duo, going to get Gold Fury as well. Only 1 Tier 2 tower and 3 Phoenixes standing for Obey Alliance as they've extended their gold lead now to about 8,000 gold, about 9,000 experience as well. Obey Alliance continuing to cause some trouble here for NRG this whole season. As NRG look like they're on their way to a nice clean 2-0, but Obey Alliance bounce right back. So, still though, this game not over yet as CaptainTwig looks for damage onto Yammyn. NRG certainly have a chance to put up some strong defenses. We saw Obey do it in Game 1. NRG now with the Fear No Evil, with the Athena taunts that they have to try and find their way into. The Sunbreaker from emilitoo. Not too easy to siege in on this comp.
But they don't have to worry about sieging towers anymore. All the
true.
Towers now down, and Obey's lead getting closer and closer to 10K. Twig's going to be able to solo down this Pyromancer very, very easily on the Erlang Shen. Now Obey's got a commanding lead. You're right, it won't be easy to siege into the Phoenixes, but with the sort of lead that Obey has, it's certainly possible.
I think we even saw iRaffer going for this Gauntlet of Thieves. Yeah, 4th item. We don't always see this one coming out this late. As NRG looking for a fight in the jungle. That does force out the mounted archery there from Ataraxia. He's able to retreat through space and time, committed from Yammyn. They can't quite find someone in the jungle isolated. I like the call from NRG, but Obey Alliance able to disengage.
The right idea, because as I mentioned before, Ataraxia's relics were on cooldown, both of them, and I believe they came back fairly recently, so NRG was trying to catch him out. Plus, we see this a lot from teams these days where they'll group as 5 and sit inside a buff camp or something like that and hope that only one straggling member comes through, and Ataraxia was that one lost boy in the jungle, but is not quite quick enough to catch him. He got a horse.
Horses are pretty fast.
They are. Not as fast as, like, time or space, but...
I mean, that's not fair, though.
I mean, that's what he has to worry about, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, you don't expect him to be that fast. He's just a horse.
If it was like a cosmic horse, I would expect it to be at least as fast as light.
That's fair, but I mean, aside from materializing out of nowhere, the horses seem rather normal.
Yeah.
Where are they coming from, Ryan?
I don't know. They seem like nice horses. Like, probably a little bit nicer than your average horse.
How are you determining that? Are you a horse whisperer?
I'm not really that into horses, but I don't know. You can just look into its eyes and tell it cares about you.
I don't know. It's usually barreling at me, carrying sometimes a wizard or a guy with a spear.
But it feels bad about it. Well, first of all, that's a unicorn that carries the wizard.
That's
and
fair.
that thing is
that's still
mean
a horse,
as hell.
by the way.
Mean as hell.
Are just horses.
Very mean. I do not like that unicorn. But the horse itself is nice.
Doesn't he say my horse is amazing?
He does.
Yeah.
Amazing at being a jerk.
Obey Alliance now pushing on the solo side. Actually, the blink comes out from iRaffer. emilZy has to dash towards the team to get away. Gets the taunt on iRaffer, who's soaking up tons of damage. CaptainTwig finds a taunt of his own. Energy a little disjointed, but now comes and adapted with Fear No Evil to force everybody back. That creates room for Energy to regroup, but they have to give up through space and time and Fear No Evil to do it.
Now, both of those will be up sooner rather than later because of the CDR that each of those members has built, but still likely not as fast as they would have liked. Overall, maniaKK also transformed in that spot, and I believe he used his ultimate as well. He did, so with emilZy using Defender of Olympus to join the fray once more, that means Energy only has one ult available.
It's right at about 9,000, though, this lead that Obey Alliance has. Energy, it's tough to fight into a lead this large, but they are certainly around the Fire Giant. I don't think they want to give this one up for free, at least not yet. Obey come out from the pit. They forced them back. Now they're going to come in one more time. emilZy, emilitoo, and maniaKK all here. We see Yammyn off to the side. Fire Giant being looked at one more time.
All the blinks are down for Obey, so they got to do the engagement the old-fashioned way. Someone's got to get nice and close to them before it'll work out.
This is so spread out from Energy, the way they're going about this defense. Now it's on emilitoo, too far forward. Aegis comes out to keep him alive, has the dive bomb available, but detonate charge just too good. emilitoo gets deleted. Ataraxia finds maniaKK, and PrettyPriMe very slowly is hunting down emilZy on the right-hand side.
I don't know if he's going to be able to catch him, but it doesn't really matter. The damage has already been done to Energy. Yammyn is going to split push down to tier 2 in the mid lane, but that damage from PrettyPriMe, man, the evolved Shaman's Ring gets it done, detonating on emilitoo for over 700 there.
14,000 player damage for him, 4,000 above the next closest person. And CaptainTwig might have been able to track down emilZy. Prime and iRaffer and the rest of the squad are here. They don't need the help, though. Twig takes down emilZy, 3 kills in total. Energy unable to defend. Now the Fire Giant on all 5 members of Obey Alliance, and they're not done pushing just yet. They've got Chang'e for sustain. They got the Fire Giant for sustain. They're coming for this Phoenix.
Now, Prime has had a great game on the Zeus, and I'm never gonna get an I'm never gonna stop taking my opportunities to praise Zeus and how good of a god he is. But it feels like this Chang'e was the difference in this game. The sustain that Obey has been able to utilize with it, the way that Xaliea stole that Gold Fury with it, that seems to be the difference, and Obey is prioritizing this very heavily, a lot like NA is, and it's worked out for them thus far. I think that Energy need to focus on this pick in Game 3, even more than the Zeus.
Well, still, look where Yammyn is positioned. He's behind the team fight once again. maniaKK goes in, as does CaptainTwig through space and time. Comes through the back end, does hit Ataraxia. Fear No Evil forces out the beat, and PrettyPriMe does not find the lightning storm he's looking for, but it's still too much. Adapting cannot find him. PrettyPriMe blows up the monkey. Now Yammyn finds a kill, but not until iRaffer could come in and return the favor. Twig takes down emilitoo, 1 for 3, and Obey still standing strong.
Now right side Phoenix is in danger, but Ataraxia is the one lone member of Obey that fell, and that's the best one for Energy to have killed in this spot, except for maybe Xaliea. Right side Phoenix will fall, but it'll take Obey a lot longer if they want to go for other Phoenixes. The Titan, however, is much more susceptible to magical damage.
That's exactly right. They can come in and drop these abilities down. Only emilZy and maniaKK to defend. 23 seconds before adapting will be a part of this fight. Again, Titan now down to about half HP, and they're not doing enough damage. PrettyPriMe is forced out for the moment, but Twig and iRaffer can continue to take it up. Obey Alliance have done it. They've taken Game 2. They've evened up the set, and we're going to Game 3.
What an impressive bounce back from Obey. They really, I mean, through the first 10 minutes, they looked dead. They looked dead on arrival. This set was over. You could pack it up, but that Gold Fury steal by maniaKK revitalizes Obey.
Yes.
And their team fights after that were so much better.
That fight was so important because really, I felt like that would have been it, right? To kind of break the backs of Obey, but instead, it turned to this sort of big rallying moment for them. It feels like within that game, they play with so much confidence after that. They're in the jungle of Energy, being the aggressors rather than the ones who are kind of having everything taken from them over and over again. It's crazy how important one play can be. And now I got to ask you the big question, chat. Who was the MVP?
I think it's either got to be PrettyPriMe because Zeus #1, but I think maniaKK is an acceptable answer as well. I really do feel like that one play changes the entire complexion of this game. And I don't know if it was maniaKK who stole the Gold Fury. I know that he stopped NRG from securing it with his ultimate, and that's basically good enough for me.
Yeah, it could potentially change the whole set. Now as we move into this Game 3, if they win Game 3, we're looking back perhaps to one Gold Fury call as the reason for that, Ryan. As Obey Alliance kind of, as we said, looked dead to rights. NRG came in looking so clean, but Obey Alliance playing around this Zeus, as you said, playing around the Chang'e, managed to turn the tables.
Now, that, again, I've already said it once. I'll go back to it. I think this Chang'e pick has got to be focused out by NRG. I don't care if it's a ban or you're picking your entire team comp around it.
Right.
I think Obey is going to go back to it, and you have to have an answer for it this time.
Yeah, can't allow maniaKK to be comfortable on this pick, but we'll let the devs talk a little bit more about what they might try and do differently here in Game 3. Go ahead and break it down.
Thanks a lot, John. Thanks a lot, Ryan. Tom and Taco here one more time in between Game 2 and 3. Because Obey brought us to a Game 3. What a turnaround from game number 1.
They just had pressure for once. Obey could not find that same level of pressure in the first match because even though they got the successful invade off, they weren't able to maintain that. And in fact, it was 180'd on them after they ended up being the ones who died for the first and second blood of the game. And that kind of just set the pacing for the rest of match 1. But here we see Obey, and there's something to be said about that Zeus pick for PrettyPriMe. It just always manages to come in clutch when they need it.
Every single time. I started noticing this trend when Obey lost to, I believe it was Eager at Worlds, not last year, but the year before. When Obey lost it, and you look at the rest of the statistics of that year, every single time Obey had their back against the wall in elimination in the previous 2 lands, they went specifically to Zeus and Fenrir, right? And I think that Zeus pick is really very good for what this team wants to do. And what a surprise. PrettyPriMe going to be your MVP here today. Yeah, I said that as sarcastically as possible because Zeus is certainly the man. And this team, I don't know if it's a team or just the fact that PrettyPriMe is a god on Zeus, Taco, but they keep going to it when they need to, and they find the wins with it.
PrettyPriMe is just really strong at mages in general. And one thing that I actually mentioned to you that I'm curious about for Game 3, I feel as though NRG are kind of helping Obey out here by banning away the knee. The only concern that I can think of is that Ataraxia doesn't get it, but based off what we've seen from Obey, there's a heavy risk that they might take the knee for themselves for PrettyPriMe, and that has not worked out well for them.
Well, so, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'd have to talk to Nate, and I haven't done so. I feel like the last week we saw them do it once, and it didn't work, and then they did it again in a different match, and it didn't work. And I firmly believe that just trying something once is not good enough. Trying something twice will give you a good idea of if it's going to work or not. And I liked that Obey. I came up here and I said it. I liked that they were doing something different. It didn't work. Let's move on. I'm not